So our next speaker is Celeste Kroeger Campodonico. Celeste grew up in Chile, on the coast of the Pacific Ocean. She is the scientist in a family of artists. In her heart and brain, marine education, outreach, citizen science, and research share space. Celeste has worked for universities and NGOs. She's an enthusiastic person who can always find an excuse to get in the water, no matter the temperature or season. The title of her presentation today is Science Goes on Vacation, a book for travelers discovering the Antarctic microscopic forest.
Let me introduce you Ana, Fernanda, and Karen, 3 Chilean teachers that are really important to me. I met them and they met each other in 2015 when I was giving a workshop about birds and science education. They have different backgrounds, they live in different cities, and they work with the students of different ages. But since last year, they have the exact same microalgae tattoo. Why? What made them to decide to put these tiny creatures in their skin? I will tell you more in a bit, but first, I would like to present how I ended working in a book focused on the south of the South, specifically on the western Antarctic Peninsula. As we saw earlier this morning, this is a really special place. It has hundreds of islands, fjords, and bayments that provide refuge and food for lots of animals, from worms to huge whales, that cross the world for feeding in this area. Despite the peninsula seems to be a remote place, it is already impacted by human actions. It is one of the fastest warming regions of the planet. 87% of its marine flood glaciers are in retreat. They are melting, and this melting implies that more fresh water is running into the ocean. If you search about the Antarctic food web, you will get tons of information regarding krill, because several animals prey on this little crustacean. But krill also needs to eat, and it feeds mainly on microscopic plant-like creatures that drift in the ocean, the phytoplankton. This is phytoplankton, also known as the invisible forest or the microscopic forest. And besides being the foundation of the food web, phytoplankton play a critical role in the carbon cycle and contributes over half of the oxygen we breathe. The impacts of the meltwater from the glaciers on this invisible forest are not fully understood yet, and neither the potential of these changes on bigger animals. Another human activity having an impact in the peninsula is tourism. Last season, near 60,000 visitors were reported, and this is around 10 times the number of scientists registered for the same period of time. The industry is growing, with more people interested in going to this beautiful place. But besides the potential negative effects of the activity, there is also an opportunity for involving travelers in science and conservation, as we saw this morning with the video. Seeing this in 2016, a project called PHYTO started. Partnering with tour operators, scientists began to involve travelers in collecting phytoplankton in the fjords, with the idea of research the impact of the meltwater on the invisible forest. Projects of this kind, where scientists team up with people for conducting authentic research, are considered citizen science. In general, they allow more data collection, covering larger areas and longer periods of time. But also, and equally important, by participating in these projects, passengers can get a better sense of the place they are visiting. They can understand in a deep way the threats the place is facing, and even it might affect their attitudes and environmental behavior after they return home. However, how much can citizen science influence travelers is still a matter of research. But in general, when people are part of the learning process and they are not only following instructions or repeating a process, the learning is more significant. In the PHYTO program, travelers enjoy going on the Zodiac, asking questions to the travelers, taking samples and using different equipments. But the real magic moment occurs when they are able to see, under the microscope, the samples that they took. And here I have some of their classic exclamations. I love all of them, especially the last one, because it is a clear expression of travelers realizing that phytoplankton exists. It wasn't real enough until they saw them. So at this point, travelers they are in a perfect stage for continuing exploring and learning about how diverse these creatures are, what are their names, how they might be related to us as humans living in countries far away from Antarctica or living in inland cities. And this is what happened to the 3 Chilean teachers, but in a different context. They lived experiences that allowed them to realize how all life is connected and how important is this microscopic world. That's why last year, when one of them had to leave the country, they decided, or they thought about the phytoplankton tattoo. After all, diatoms united them. So thinking about creating more experiences that help to connect people with the Southern Ocean and seeing an opportunity in the FJORD PHYTO program, I got on the menu of a book. So for my Capstone project, I started an Antarctic phytoplankton ID book for non-specialist audiences. I am aiming to enrich the experiences of the travelers, and at the same time, I wanted to create a book that could surprise people with the beauty and diversity of phytoplankton. I want to inspire people to get involved in science and to communicate the relevance of this invisible forest. So, having the verb to amaze in mind, I started reading, writing, discussing, and also drawing these tiny yellow creatures that you can see at the bottom of the screen. The book resulted in 7 chapters, and I have been working mainly on 2 of them. So, this is the book. The book is really visual. It is dominated by images, including pictures and watercolor drawings. Each page is 20 by 20 centimeters, so here we are seeing 2 pages of the book, or how the book looks like when it is open. All texts are short, avoid scientific jargon, and complex sentences. And I decided to make the book bilingual in English and Spanish, mainly because the gateway to Antarctica is through South America. I included a food web that helps to understand the relation among the different creatures. And I decided to include the human here in the ship. And one complete page is only for phytoplankton and for krill, to stress their relevance. So as you can see, all these bigger animals rely on krill, and krill rely on phytoplankton. Phytoplankton have been an inspiration for naturalists and artists and scientists and travelers since a long time ago. That's why in some pages, besides in action pictures of citizen scientists on the field, I decided to add questions, quotes, or poetry. This poem has more than 100 years, and it said, "Big flows have little flows all around about them, and all the yellow diatoms couldn't do without them. 40 million shrimplets feed upon the ladder, and they make the penguin and the seals and the whales much fatter." The invisible forest is much more than just drifting cells, so if you want to learn about its incredible powers, you can take a look to the superpower pages. And if you are trying to find out what are you looking under the microscope, you can check the ID section. Each group or each genus has 2 pages, a blue and a white one. On the blue side, you will find information about its morphology. You will find some drawings and some symbols. And on the white page, you will find ecological or biological information and fun facts about the group. You will see diverse pictures showing different angles of the cells and how the group looks like under different microscopes. You might also find some quotes for travelers, and here I have one that expressed that being able to learn and be part of citizen science made me feel less like just a visitor and more part of keeping the science culture that Antarctica is known for alive and well. And this made me go back to the title of my presentation, because yes, science can go on vacation, because science is everywhere and everyone can be part of it. Science is a way of thinking. It's more than just a body of knowledge. Some weeks ago, when I asked the 3 Chilean teachers if I could share their story today, they say yes and sent me a text they called "By the Power or Love of Diatoms." And among other inspiring phrases, they say, "We feel we are ambassadors of the diatoms. To have them in our skin is a way of making visible a world that you can see only with your eyes. Each one of us, in our daily life, in pedagogical and personal context, try to contribute to the visibilization of this world and give all people the opportunity of getting to know it. Well, with this book, I want to do the same. I hope that this, the first phytoplankton ID book for the peninsula and for non-specialist audiences, will help to grow the spark of curiosity and make visible the invisible forest. At this moment, I have been working in 30 pages of the book, and at the end, I will have around 200 or 150. So the journey will continue, and we are starting a fundraising campaign for finishing and printing the book. So if you want to help the book become reality with a donation, please visit this link, crowdsurf.ucsd.edu/FJORD-PHYTO. And if you want to learn more about the FJORD-PHYTO program, you can go to the next webpage. This presentation is being recorded, so when we share the presentation, we can share the link also. And having said that, I just want to say thanks. Thanks to Alison, Samantha, and Peter, my committee. I also want to say thanks to Martina, an Argentinian researcher who has been key in the development of this book, to Ingrid, the graphic designer, also key in the development of the book, to Anita, Karen, Fer, to Risa, Edu, to my family, my friends, and to my whole cohort. I also wanted to say thank you to Scripps Institution of Oceanography for this opportunity of learning and growing, and to the people of my country for my scholarship. And thank you, all of you, for watching this presentation. I'll be happy to receive questions.
Thank you, Celeste. We have a question here. Why did you decide to incorporate drawings in the book instead of using only pictures of phytoplankton?
Thank you for the question. I was hoping to have time for explaining this, and so I have a slide. And I would say I had different reasons, but the most important one is related with the goal of the book, because the book needs to serve as an ID guide, so you need to be able to identify the cells. So pictures can be super pretty, super beautiful, but you can get distracted with colors or textures that are not key for identifying the group. So here I have an example. This is an odontella. It's a diatom, and you can get the general shape. It's kind of a square, and you can say, yeah, the color is concentrated in the center. But if I put this drawing besides the picture, you will see 4 spines, and you will look for the spines in the pictures, and they are there, but they are not super visible. So that's why I think the drawings and the pictures are complementary, and both are super important in an ID guide.
Thank you. Celeste, are there studies on the impact that citizen science programs like FJORD-PHYTO have in Antarctic travelers?
There is no studies researching specifically the impact of the onboard citizen science on the travelers, on their behavior, or on their attitudes. Some of the science projects have been incorporating some surveys at the end, so they are gathering feedback, but there is no like a concrete study. And I think this is present in the to-do list of the FJORD-PHYTO team. Thank you.